It's the Richie Allen Show. Broadcasting live on richieallen.co.uk and multiple platforms around the world. And now, here's your host, Richie Allen.
Now, the election is a week tomorrow. It is a week tomorrow. That's Thursday, December 12th, 2019. And we have a candidate. On the Richie Allen Show. Well, you know him very well. John Kitson, the 5G, the anti-5G campaigner, who's been on the programme many times, will be standing for Parliament in Totnes, in Devon. Really glad to be reconnecting with my next guest. He's a remarkable man. He came to our attention because he has been trying to raise awareness about the dangers and the health impact of 5G technology, and he's done that very successfully. So he has. He's from Totnes. He's very successful because earlier on this year he managed to persuade Totnes Town Council to declare a moratorium on installing the high-frequency 5G network, which many experts that I have interviewed, including Chris Busby, including Barry Trower, including Alana Freeland, there are many men and women who've said this is a death knell for people, for men, women and children, if this is rolled out on our highways and byways. You can find out more about him if you go to the website 5gawareness.com. That's 5gawareness.com. That's where you'll find out all about him. He is standing for Parliament in Totnes, so he'll be on the ballot paper next Thursday, tomorrow week, when you go to the polls in Totnes. He'll be on there. Give him a vote. I'm telling you. I know you'll say, you hypocritical bastard, Richie, because you don't go out and vote. Listen, this is deadly serious. Single issue candidate in Totnes saying the concerns about the rollout of 5G are genuine and they are based on facts, not on conspiracy theory. It's based on facts. Let's welcome him back to the show. He's been in Copenhagen recently. John Kitson, welcome back to the programme. How are you?
Hi, Richie. I'm very well. Thank you for having me back on again.
Great to have you on. Are you on the campaign trail this evening? Are you knocking on doors there in Totnes?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, today, during the daytime, I've been connecting with media, and I've been, trying to knock on doors as well. It's very tough because, I've got my election agent here, but there is still a lot of people, who are quite busy. So it's just a minimal team of people. But I had a lot of financial support from various friends and others online. And I've been connecting with local media here in Totnes. I spoke with the Daily Mail today and just got off the phone with a guy from Bloomberg. So far so good. Just really trying to get the word out. Yeah,
it's lovely that. It's a very difficult thing. I mentioned earlier on, you won't have heard it. And it wasn't in any way to patronise you. I've been covering elections as a journalist for many, many, many years, and I've met many independents, smart men and women. It's difficult going up against the might of the political parties with all of their volunteers and all of their bloody money. So it's an honourable thing to do, John, because it's a very important issue. Remind our listeners, because some of them they might be hearing the Richie Allen radio show for the very first time. Remind them why you are doing this. Remind them why you are so concerned about 5G to the point that you've decided to throw your hat into the ring in this election. Remind us.
Sure. Well, I came back to the UK a couple of years ago, and it started off, my mother developed a brain tumour, and I believe it was caused from her wireless landline phone, and she started to get a lot of headaches from that. And and then I started to meet other people who were suffering from something called electrosensitivity, who whenever they would be around Wi-Fi, they would feel ill. And that's when I started to do my own research. And of course, I came across Mark Steele and Gateshead. I went up there. I was at the court cases. I heard about people suffering, their children from nosebleeds. People had lost their partners due to brain tumors. And really serious. And then I went to a couple of these conferences in the UK where there were these doctors speaking, such as Professor Martin Paul, Dr. Erica Mallory Blythe. And then, of course, I came across the very good article in the Lancet journal. And just more and more evidence, and just such damning evidence to show that this is really terrifying technology.
I remember. I remember when we first spoke. One of the things that was, because it's really fascinating for me speaking to people like you, because you were at that point where I was a few years ago as well. You know, you're starting to be surprised by things. Like, you were very surprised when you were hearing learned men and women talking about the dangers of the technology. But you were surprised, weren't you, John, at the time, that these people weren't being heard on local radio or national television. These are real wake-up calls, aren't they, for people? Why are these people not getting an airing?
Well, this is it. And I believe it's due to the power that the telecommunications industry have. We're talking about $1 trillion industry now, and the clout that they have through the mainstream media, such as the BBC. And of course, we saw that recent documentary. I only saw some clips from it, BBC Click, where they were asking, you know, were the concerns about 5G safe? And this chap was holding up a meter next to the mast. And, you know, obviously that meter wasn't switched on, you know, because these give off tremendous amounts of microwave radiation. And unfortunately, it's money, Richie. Money seems to control everything right now. But people are standing up for themselves. And, you know, this scrutiny meeting we had in Exeter a couple of weeks ago, we had over 100 people turn up to challenge the council there. So, yeah, there's a lot of exciting developments in Devon. And I think we've just got to keep just using all the effort and might we have to get the word out, despite the mainstream narrative.
I was really impressed with what you achieved in Totnes by getting the council to declare a moratorium. I'll tell you why. Because there are a lot of people who agitate in the independent media, but they don't ever do anything. It kind of reminded me, sometimes the independent media reminds me of the meetings between Reg and his followers in The Life of Brian. You know what I'm talking about, John? When they all meet, but they don't do anything. You know, they meet and they complain. And I don't mean to insult anybody by saying that. I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. And you went down there and you made a cogent argument, a lucid argument, and you had the facts to back you up. And you showed that if people did get off their bloody backsides, they've got, you know, they can make a change. And you did that. That was a remarkable thing, that moratorium.
Yeah, thank you, Richie. This is the thing, you know, we have the power. And this is what we've got to realize, you know, that there's all this stuff coming in and, you know, we're hearing about all these awful things. But it's about people getting up off the backsides, taking action and doing something. And, you know, when there's enough pressure, that's when things can be achieved. And it's incredible, you know, when you just get one person, you know, they convert themselves to an activist, even if they're working, they're doing a full-time job. If they just, you know, commit a few hours a week to trying to create some change in the world, I truly believe that they can have an impact, and they'll get support, you know. Yeah. And I just think it's also about just not having any fear. You know, I think we get tested a lot in our lives, and, you know, sometimes things go wrong. But at the end of the day, you got to look to your heart and look to do what's right, you know, and then truly, I believe you can then have a fulfilling life. You know, it's about making change. You know, we can't do everything in this lifetime, and sometimes we'll make mistakes, sometimes we fail, but I want to live my life at least knowing that I did something.
That you didn't sit idly by. I really appreciate that. And in the event, and again, I'm not trying to rain on your parade. I've got to be, I know you're a very realistic man. In the unlikely event, although maybe stranger things have happened, but you managed to win the seat there, you have said to your credit that if you got in as MP for Totnes in Devon, you wouldn't take a salary. You would use that money for worthy causes. I like the idea of that, John.
Definitely. Because, you know, I mean, we've seen the expenses scandals, and, you know, I believe a lot of people just don't have a lot of trust in their MPs nowadays, and especially when you've got all of these lobby groups. And I think, yeah, you know, we could do a lot more to really look after the areas that we represent, that our MPs represent. And I think that giving back to the environment, I mean, a lot of people in this constituency care about the environment. And I just think, you know, that's something I could do. I mean, it's £80,000 that MPs are now getting per year. Yeah. And that's not including expenses, you know, that's on top. So it's a ridiculous amount of money. And obviously, you know, I donate to groups that are genuine green. We're not talking about this, you know, Extinction Rebellion fake green movement. Groups that are genuinely looking to clean up the water, also prevent 5G. I mean, you know, I'll put all my effort, because obviously if they roll that out, then it's game over for all of our trees, all of our wildlife. But yeah, I just think it's a way in that I'm able to get the message out there that I care and I want to protect the environment around us.
Thanks for that. Is there any truth? There's a few questions coming in. Is there any truth that the technology was developed in Israel? Now, JP in Manchester is asking this. We know that the Israelis are very good when it comes to tech. We know that. They're very, very savvy. They've got a lot of top minds there. Is there any truth that the 5G rollout here is a system that the Israelis didn't like because it was too strong or too dangerous? Is there any truth to that, or is that just a wacky conspiracy theory?
Well, I mean, I know that Qualcomm, from what I understand, is an Israeli company, and that some of the technology, I know that there was some video I saw a while back looking at the technology in cars and how Israel had created that technology, or some of it's Israeli. But to say that, Israel's behind all of it, I don't have the confidence to support that argument. But I would just say that I really don't know the extent, and that's not my speciality. Mostly I've been looking at health, but I know that China is rapidly rolling out 5G.
As well as Japan,
social credit system, Japan as well. They're totally falling for it out there, and that's because they don't really question the government. What the government says goes. And but what I understand is that Israel is having 5G rolled out there. I've heard that from a number of sources. So, yeah, I think they're probably also facing the same situation as we are.
No doubt.
It's not my area of speciality, but what I understand is that every country's facing this 5G rollout, although there is more resistance in some countries than others.
No doubt. Yeah, I don't think the questioner was implying that it's some sort of Israeli or Zionist plot at all. I don't think he was suggesting that. Maybe I phrased the question poorly. No, he was just wondering, because it obviously isn't some sort of Israeli plot, but he was just wondering if there was any, because, Israel being such a small place, if they hadn't chosen to use a particular version of 5G that is dangerous. I think the questioner was asking, we might be getting something that another country has decided is dangerous. But on that, we know that the Belgian health minister, has said, and I've not been able to follow up that story, John, to find out what has happened in Brussels, where the environment minister and the health minister said, listen, we better not roll this out yet because we don't know if it's safe or not. Do you know, has there been any follow-up to that there? I can't find one.
Right. All I know is that, the Brussels Times, now this was back in October, was the last thing I heard. And the environment minister was saying there that, there's no rush to really bring this out, and that they were continuing to be hesitant in terms of bringing out this technology. I haven't heard that, okay, we definitely won't be having it 100%. But as far as I know, they're trying to delay things. They're trying not to have this technology rolled out there. And it's mainly on environmental concerns. And this was it started off with the previous Minister for the Environment, Celine Fremolt.
Yes.
And just they're very, very skeptical about it, having any benefit for them. And I really support what they're doing. But that's the best that I know at the moment.
Loads of questions for you that you won't be able to answer, but we'll rattle through a few of them anyway. Although you might be. These are speculative ones. Isn't it interesting that the parties, all of them, have got in their manifestos promises to improve broadband speeds around the country? And they do. And I began to notice a few weeks ago, and I can only speak for me, I can't for sure say that this is a national thing or even a local thing, but I would be outside the house, and I don't use my phone when I'm out very often. I've learned a lot over the years. These are dangerous things. They give off radiation. I try not to use it. I'm outside anyway, so of course when I'm outside, I'm using 4G. And, well, for quite a long time, it was incredibly fast. But I've noticed in recent months that it's incredibly slow. And when I said this on the radio show some weeks ago, I got a lot of correspondence from people who said, Jesus, Richie, I've noticed the same thing. My 4G phone is just not doing so well. And of course, John, you're bound to wonder, is 4G being slowed down deliberately? I wonder. What do you think?
It wouldn't surprise me, Richie. I mean, I think they'll try every last tactic in the book to really push this technology out there, especially when there's more and more people getting outraged about the health concerns. And again, this is just another little trick in their bags. And I mean, yeah, I've had friends tell me the same thing, in fact. And, you know, I don't find if I put my phone on 4G, I mean, I try not to use 4G at all. I have it on a 3G only setting, but I've heard the same from others. And with the Wi-Fi, I've found that actually that's extremely slow if you're trying to upload a YouTube video. So what I tend to do, I go to my friend's house and I just plug in the LAN cable so that it's all wired in, and it uploads at about 4 or 5 times the speed as it would on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I think there's something
against Wi-Fi.
I think there's something up, John. Although, you know, as mature, in terms of mature of mind, gentlemen, we won't make any declarations that we can't substantiate with evidence. So it's just a thought. John Kitson is our guest, and John has been working very hard over the last year or so, 2 years, to raise awareness about the danger of 5G technology, and he's had quite a bit of success in doing that. The general election takes place a week tomorrow on December 12th. John is standing in Totnes in Devon, where he had success recently persuading the council there to put a moratorium on the technology. He needs your help, so go to the website 5gawareness.com. That's 5gawareness.com. You might be able to send him a few quid. If you're not able to do that, if you are, all well and good. If you're not, help him out. You know, if you're in Totnes and Devon, get out there, get some leaflets. You know, don't wait for John to give you leaflets. Make some leaflets up. Mention that he's the candidate, that he's talking about 5G. Hey, John, I can't speak for the UK, but I can speak for Ireland. The media, the local media anyway, let's talk about the media in Devon. It has an obligation to give you access as you are a candidate. It has an obligation under Ofcom regulations. How are you doing there getting coverage by the local media, the local radio, the local TV?
Right. Well, in fact, Totnes Times here featured a story on me running as an independent, and I didn't even get in touch with them. So that was really fortunate. And I just finally managed to reach out to them today, because I've had about 3 5G events over the last 2 weeks. And then I was over in Denmark for a few days. But I got back in touch with them and I said, hey, look, actually, I'm also giving back my salary. And I'd really appreciate if you could mention that, because there's a lot of people who care about the environment. I got in touch with with Devon Live, who run the Herald Express. So they said they'd run something on it. And yeah, so far they've been quite helpful. I mean, ITV West Country had me on for a couple of minutes. And then, of course, they had another chap on who was saying, oh, you know, it's no problem. But they actually included, when I mentioned about the Lancet article, which is fantastic, I encourage everybody to download and print a copy to show to people. They actually took a screen capture of the article that is showed in the news clip. So, yeah, I was quite pleased with their coverage. But in terms of the local coverage, it's been great. But then, of course, the Times did that awful disinformation article talking about conspiracy theorists. But what do you expect when you've got Murdoch, who's in charge of the Times?
Of course, this is it. This is what you're always going to be up against. And there are a couple of other candidates, and they are known to you, who have, like yourself, have put their names forward around the country. Do you want to let us know about them? We'll give them a mention as well.
Yeah, sure. So you've got Emma Victoria Johnson, and she's running for Bournemouth East as MP. And you can find her through Facebook. And there's also Lee Garrett. And now Emma's website is emmavictoriajohnson.uk. And then Lee Garrett, he's also got a YouTube channel as well, which is Lee Garrett. That's GARRETT, I believe. And you can find them on the internet. Lee's running on a sort of pro-Black Brexit platform, and Emma's just running against 5G. So I definitely recommend having a look at them and looking at what they're up to. And I think it's great that we've got other people making a stand
No
against
doubt.
5G in the country.
Let me ask you, we've got John Kitson.
Lee Garrett for Blaydon MP, Blaydon.
For Blaydon. I'm making a note of this now myself there. EmmaVictoriaJohnson.uk is the website, Bournemouth East. And Lee Garrett, Blaydon, he's running on a pro-Brexit platform and anti-5G. That's good news. Now, have you been to hustings? Have you been able to, as far as I've understood from following you on Twitter, you have been face-to-face with the other candidates, is that right?
That's right. I joined a hustings at one of the colleges where I showed a 10-minute video including, and then I just had a minute to speak. And I included the effect on phone masts on animals
Brilliant.
in France. There was a Blumenthal clip, another clip on the blood cells being affected by the smart meter. And then there was one in the evening where I was up against Sarah Wollaston. And of course, she's the lady
A doctor, if you please. Go ahead.
Yeah, she's the lady who came out against David Noakes, who, of course, they're trying to extradite to France for helping thousands of people around the world with juicy
Wollaston. Yeah. That's right. I've had David on many times talking about that. I have a lot of sympathy for him, no doubt about that. So she was there. I'm delighted that you got to show a 10-minute film and have a chat. How do you think it went down? What was the reaction to it when people were hearing about this, about 5G and the dangers?
Right. Well, basically, I mean, some of the students from the afternoon hustings, they came over and spoke to me. They were quite surprised. They said they were going to look into it, which was great. But then there were a lot of students in terms of the questions. No one asked one about 5G. It was about student loans, the NHS. And then the same in the evening, unfortunately. We didn't have any questions. This is from the Brixham audience where we had 400 people. After my 5-minute introduction, nobody really asked about 5G. So I was a little bit disappointed by that. But I made the good use of my 5 minutes in the evening to actually read out the space appeal that I feel is a very powerful one.
Yeah. And
just to show photos, you've got Lee Garrett's son in Gateshead, who's been bleeding by the nose, who's living near one of these street lights with the antennas on. And then I challenged Sarah Wollaston on silencing David Noakes. And of course, she also helped to shut down the this alternative cancer care conference that Steve Hopwood was holding in Totnes.
She did, John. And tell me this, what was her response when she was challenged about those issues?
Oh, she became pretty cross. Yeah, she said, I don't support quackery. And
right.
Of course, that's the standard response from GPs now who don't really like to consider alternative healthcare. But, when you look into the history of healthcare and what's happened with the shutting down of the medical schools and the Rockefeller and Carnegie foundations, it's really quite damning. And I just think that it's quite concerning, this line against homeopathic medicine.
Yeah, it's dreadful. I started covering this back in 2009 on the radio in Spain, when the European Union first started to noticeably try to crack down right across Europe on homeopathic remedies. It's dreadful. It's been going on for years now. Hey, John, I wanted to ask you this. There's a great irony here. I absolutely believe that you are correct, 100% correct, that 5G technology is going to be devastating for plant life and animal life, and it's going to devastate us. I have no doubt you're absolutely right. Isn't it incredible that the so-called Environment Party, the Party for the Planet, the Greens, don't give a rat's arse about 5G, do they? Have the Greens even said anything on this at all? Ever? Not to my knowledge.
Unfortunately not. I mean, we have a mayor here in Totnes who's been quite concerned about 5G, but at the same time, she's very keen on Totnes declaring a climate emergency. And of course, we know that is about rolling out the 5G technology. And of course, we had a chap by the name of Justin Walker went to the Green Party conference and challenged Caroline Lucas to her opinion on 5G and why she wasn't doing anything about it. And he was physically taken out of the building. That just goes to show that, that they're really not looking into this enough, and they're just ignoring the problem. And none of the political parties are really dealing with this. And unfortunately, it is the Green Party that are backing the climate emergencies and the rollout of electric cars, LED streetlights as a solution to lowering the carbon footprint, which ultimately is an attack on life, because of course we need CO2. It's required for plants to grow, and we breathe out CO2. I mean, if we have zero net CO2, then how are we supposed to breathe? You know, it really doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense at all. What did you think today about Extinction Rebellion gluing themselves to an electric bus? They're not the brightest people in the world, are they, John?
They're not. I mean, you know, you saw them get on top of the train as well in London, the electric tube train, and they just got pulled off. And I met this chap, actually. I was giving a talk near Birmingham, and I know this guy, you know, he lives off grid, and he was naming Extinction Rebellion as the last rebellion. That I thought is quite interesting, because if you look at their name, Extinction Rebellion, it's like extinction of the rebellion, and perhaps this is what they're looking to do. Truly demonize independent rebellion and protests, so that protesting is outlawed. And I wouldn't be surprised if the government responds in such a way. You know, they see all these protests, or they allow, obviously, you know, we know the police are allowing them to do this, the government's allowing them to do this. And then finally they come out and say, oh, actually, I'm sorry, they're causing so many problems, we're going to criminalize protesting, or take some sort of action against protesters.
While I'm speaking with you, you have my undivided attention, like all my guests do, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not looking for any credit for that. You have my undivided attention. Stuff gets sent across my screen all the time from various news agencies, and Manchester United today, bizarrely, have put on their, this is not related to you, but I know you're interested in all of these things, on their Twitter page, has put an image of a heart, and half the heart is a Syrian flag, and the other half of the heart is an LGBT flag. Programming, John. It's going on 24 hours a day, isn't it? It doesn't matter where you put your bloody head. I'd love to know why Man United are doing that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's not relevant to what you were talking about. So you've got a few days then to get the word out to as many people in Totnes as you possibly can. You will have had to pay a deposit. I hope to God that at the very least you get your deposit back, John. And if you do manage to pull off an exceptional result down there, I'm coming down there, mate. I'll be down there. In one arm I'll have a case of Guinness, a draft, and in the other arm I'll have a case of champagne. I'll be the first one down there to congratulate you.
You'll be welcome, Richie. We'll put you up here. You know, amazing. Definitely. You need to come down and give a talk. It would be great to have you. I mean, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And I mean, if there's anyone in the area at all that has time on December the 12th to come and be a counting agent, I'd be extremely appreciative of that, because I can appoint 15 people to do that in Totnes. And it just gives, you know, me a bit of confidence that, okay, at least there are people out there looking out for me, so that the votes aren't being manipulated when they're being counted.
Yeah.
And this is the thing you've got to have your eye on so much. I mean, with the printing, you know, I had to get in touch with Royal Mail. There's actually a lot to do running as an MP, but it was really worth it, because when you do run, Royal Mail will deliver, you know, tens of thousands of leaflets for free. All you need to do is get them printed and get them approved. So, you know, it's been quite a battle, but finally I managed to get them approved, and then it's sort of last minute premium printing, getting the printing done, and that should be with Royal Mail on Friday, and then posted out after that. So hopefully everybody should get them in time. But it's been tricky, because Royal Mail will come back, they'll say, oh, you've made this error, and then I've corrected it, and then they found another error, rather than let me know all the problems with the leaflet. So it's just delay after delay.
Well, you'll have a great, you know, I don't mean, again, this is not meant to sound patronising, because it isn't. You'll have a brilliant story to tell when it's all said and done. I mean, not only will you still have plenty to do in getting the word out about 5G, which you'll continue to do in 2020, no doubt, but you know, you're getting an insight into something there that maybe a lot of people don't get. So, you know, it'll be very valuable hearing all about that. Listen, mate, I want to wish you the very best. I want to first of all remind our listeners to go to 5gawareness.com. That's 5gawareness.com. Subscribe to the newsletter there. If you can donate to John's efforts in Totnes, do help him out there. John, I'm going to whack you a donation myself later on, because it's the least I should put my money where my mouth is, so I'm going to do that later on. I don't know what it will do for you, but I hope it'll be of some use to you. If you can help John out, 5gawareness.com. And just the very best of luck, mate. next
Oh, I
week.
really appreciate it, Richie. And I was just going to say, we've got Barry Trower, who's going to be coming and giving a talk on Wednesday, the 11th of December, and that's at the Totnes Civic Hall on the Market Square. And the information on that is on my events page at 5gawareness.com. And it's a free event, and it's at 7:30 p.m. So feel free to come, bring your friends, invite your counselors along, maybe give your counselors a lift.
Mention it again, John. Mention it again.
Yeah.
Where and when. Remind our listeners where and when.
Yeah, Barry Trower, The Shocking Truth About 5G and Wi-Fi. And it's on Wednesday, the 11th of December at the Totnes Civic Hall, Market Square at 7:30 p.m. in Totnes. And the information is all on my website, 5gawareness.com, on the events page. And it's a free event.
Brilliant. And to donate to your election campaign, the best way to do that is to donate at 5gawareness.com. Is that the best way to do that?
Oh, so yeah, I've got I'm going to put a poster on that. People can go to my Facebook, John Kitson, and I'll have it on the Facebook there. It's also on Stop 5G, pinned at the top. But I'll put a link to it on my website as well, and they can donate to that, and that'll help me get the word out even more through social media. It'll help me, just advertise the Barry Trower event and just really help with the election campaign.
Good luck with it, mate. Very, very, all the best of luck with it. I think you're a top man, and I think you're doing a great job there. The success you had with the council is a testament to you, and I hope you get a sizable vote next week, whatever else happens. John Kitson, all the best, my friend. Look forward to hearing about it very soon.
Thank you so much for having me again on the show, Richie. It was a pleasure.
Anytime, mate. That's John Kitson there, live, Totnes and Devon. He's on the campaign trail, 5gawareness.com, standing for MP there in the election next week. His name will be on the ballot. And the very best of luck to him. And he mentioned, and I did write it down very quickly. Here you go. It is also Emma Victoria Johnson. She's standing in Bournemouth East. Emma Victoria Johnson, Bournemouth East, on an anti-5G platform. And her website is emmavictoriajohnson.uk. Okay? And you've also got in Blaydon, that's Lee Garrett in Blaydon. If you Google Lee, you'll find out all about that. Lee Garrett in Blaydon. And he's standing on a pro-Brexit, get the hell out of the European Union platform. That's his platform. But also anti-5G as well, Lee Blaydon.